And so you care for what's valuable. And so the way we create resource stewardship is to create value. And so we do sell a fair amount of firewood. We sell it in the region for people to come and pick it up. We also do our own logs using multiple use equipment. We want multiple use equipment to keep the next opportunity open-ended. One of the biggest enslavements and innovation stoppers in modern American agriculture is highly intensive, capital-intensive, single-use, highly depreciable infrastructure. Because when you're locked in to a great big confinement facility, how do you adjust that? How do you retrofit it? The day the child comes home and says, "Hey, Dad, Grandpa, why don't we just, instead of pouring concrete and bending rebar and filling silos, we call those bankruptcy tubes, instead of doing all that for a confinement dairy, why don't we just let the cows go out and self-harvest their grass, self-spread their manure?" And about the time he says that, Dad and Grandpa go into apoplectic seizures and say, "Wait a minute, we spent our whole life pouring concrete and bending rebar and begging for money from the banker, and you're just going to walk away from it?" And so single-use capital-intensive infrastructure is one of the most debilitating systems that we do in modern agriculture for innovation. So we want multiple-use equipment. So we can load these logs and bring them down to our little bandsaw mill. This is the ultimate information-based kind of machinery for the next information-based agrarian economy. Kevin Kelly, who wrote the book New Rules for the New Economy, said that some of the new rules are that we're not about mass anymore. We're about miniaturization, restructuring, and downsizing. Those are the names of the mass. I mean, the 120-pound secretary has been replaced by the 4-ounce mail router. Okay? And so this is the kind of equipment, kind of infrastructure that makes, and you'll see this throughout here, is this very light, low mass, low weight infrastructure. Think how much more information your car has today, but how many pounds less it weighs. See, that's what we're talking about here. So this is an 800-pound mill run on a 20-horsepower Honda engine that puts us in the lumber business, so that we can take these trees that are growing and value add them 1,000%. Suddenly, we have value in the forest. Suddenly, the forest is worth stewarding. See, that's the point here. Our county is building 800 houses a year. Not 2 of them uses lumber that's cut within 2,000 miles of our county. And so the farmers just view the trees as something that gets in the way of the cows or the hay bind, so they destroy the woods. Nobody takes care of things. Nobody weeds them. Nobody cuts out the diseased trees. And so the NIPF land, the non-industrial private forest land, which accounts for 70% of the forest land in Virginia, only accounts for 30% of the harvest because it's so poorly stewarded. But if we go to localized infrastructure and value add it, so that we actually value add it on site, like next to where the trees grow, suddenly that value, all of that retail value at 1,000% more than the stump value, all accrues into the local resource base. Suddenly, we've got enough value to fence out the woods, to weed the woodlot, to take out the diseased trees, to encourage good growth, to weed the forest garden, if you will. And so that becomes a profit center for value adding to the forest. Now, the branches we can all snap with the butts facing all one way, run through our chipper. Dad always called this our communist machine because it makes them all the same size. And then that goes in the hay shed in the wintertime when we're at our dormant season and we're feeding hay. So the cows are dropping 50 pounds of material out their back end every day, and that material is highly soluble. If it gets wet, it wants to leach into the groundwater. If it gets dry, it wants to vaporize in the air because the soil is dormant. The gibberellins and the azotobacter and the mycorrhiza and the actinomycetes, they're all sleeping. And so they don't want to eat at that point. And so what we want to do is have a carbonaceous diaper under that volatile nutrient load to pad it up. 50 pounds a day per cow, that's big diaper, all right? And so the cows, you can see the bedding build up there where the cows are, the hay stacked here, you just put it down there, and then you walk home and you read your San Mateo newsletter. It makes a wonderful quality of life, as opposed to the capital intensive infrastructure what you see right here. This is much simpler. It doesn't make the front page of the magazines, but the cows don't complain. It's fun. We're all about function, not form. All right, so we pay for carbon. That's our ultimate carbon credit. We pay for carbon. You know, I think it's immoral in our country that in the last 40 years, 80% of all the chips and the yard waste and the carbon generated has filled up our landfills instead of going back onto arable land to complete the carbon cycle. Instead, we've buried our carbon into anaerobic, non-decomposable, useless nothing, taken landfill space, and imported petroleum from the Middle East to compensate for the fertility drain.